We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years, approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you didn't guess what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, what I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single time. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long. I said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. It's not white America's fault, but just a fact.
The very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, but many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. If you believe in this number as I do and would like to join me in the fight for reparations, please email me at friendsofadostv@gmail.com. That's friendsofadostv@gmail.com.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Hey, good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those ADOCS hot topics and making the case for reparations. Making the case for weaponizing our vote and socializing our suffering. And today, Ida B. Wells 2.0 series presents the Chauvin trial, day 8. And Biden has the unmitigated goal to not only give Asians protections over ADOCS protections, given our 400 plus year Holocaust, he has awarded them some money according to their demands through the AAPI. Asian American Pacific Islanders has demanded money, and Biden, the author of the 94 crime bill, and while we've got 1.5 million black men in prison, Jim Crow segregationist Sloppy Joe, Strom Thurmond's boy, has given them money over our social and economic justice when ADOCS, 87% of y'all, went to the polls to vote him into office. How do you like those apples? Well, I don't. So moving on, let's dig right in. Welcome to the live, Brian Johnson. I see you, Trey Lincoln family. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the live, one and all. If you have yet to chat, you are so welcome, and I'm so thankful that you're spending your evening with me as I tell it the way I see it. I'm going to thank you for all your donations. Cash App, $FOADOS TV. And of course, there's a PayPal link. Thank you so much. Your donations, your generosity enables me to offset the cost of producing the show, such as all the things I need to produce the show, plus the research that goes into doing the show. And it helps me to educate the masses and to advocate for ADOCS. So thank you, one and all. Follow in. You can chat amongst yourselves. I'll be back over to see about you. But it's time to get into all of the puckery. So today, LAPD Sergeant Jody Steiger, my hero. Woo, today was tough. Well, I tell you, that Nelson is a hell of a defense attorney. He's trying it. Now he's trying to blame. Who's he trying to blame today? I got so much of the stuff running in my head. I had that down to a science. But Lord knows this is my second show. Thank you guys for joining me at my midday as the world of ADOCS turn. Today was my first show from that series. I'll be back every day with that one. That is the plan. And then the evenings, I'm just going to cover the Chauvin trial, every day of that trial. I've got about, 8 more series to bring you. But what I decided, I'm toying with this Monday through Friday, is giving you a midday report and coming back in the evening with one of the other segments. You know, I've got so many. God has been really moving on me in this way. So yeah, defense today was just, oh my God. Oh, today I think he was blaming it on 911. That's what I deduced. Clubhouse, I'm live over in YouTube. So if you're over here, join me over there so you can chat and be a part of the dialogue. Okay. So anywho, yeah, today was 911's turn. So he's blamed it on his underlying health conditions, his drug use, the audience, the bystanders. And now 911 gets a turn. Let's dig in. So Jody Steiger, Sergeant, LAPD, brother was, oh my God. Woo-wee. I tell you, I marvel at the way God has put black men in a position to show the hell out. Do you understand me? That brilliance. This is the threat to white folks. This right here. Mr. Williams and now Sergeant Steiger. Oh my God, the brilliance. The brilliance. Oh my God, he produced damn near a 500-page report, 471, I think to be exact. Oh my God, let's dig in, family. It's rich. It's rich. America with 3 Ks. The beauty and the brawn and the brilliance of our brothers. And look at God using those brothers' acumen to bury Chauvin in a very calm, cool, collected, professional way. That's the black man. That's the ADOCS man right there. Okay? Anywho, I'm getting ahead of myself. He's returned to the witness stand. He is a use of force expert for the prosecution. He testified yesterday that he has trained thousands of police officers in use of force tactics. Me speaking. This Mickey Vicky Chauvin, that prosecutor Schleicher, is fired. He made the parallel between Chauvin's 19 years in the force and I think 866 hours of training, which means that Mickey Vicky intentionally murdered Mr. Floyd. I told y'all he's got 18 complaints, 8 of which mirror the tactic he used that killed choke, that blood choke, that finally took the life of Mr. Floyd. And Judge Cahill will only allow the prosecutors to use 2 of those 8, and they happen to be 2 of the weakest. 866 hours. And this ain't murder 1. Anywho, back to the text. He said he had reviewed the case and had come to a conclusion about Derek Chauvin's actions during the arrest of George Floyd last May. My opinion was that the force was excessive. Woo-wee. There were so many times he spoke today, you could have just gone to the room to deliberate. just, why are we still here? Steiger was the last witness to testify yesterday before the judge abruptly adjourned an hour earlier than usual. Okay? Fire. Outside experts say Chauvin used deadly force. And the defense just keeps losing. And they keep using what ifs. If ifs was fifths, we'd all be drunk up in here. That man gets off more what if scenarios that has nothing to do with what factually happened on the video. I guess the prosecutor would be objecting every other question from defense. You understand? Every other cross from defense, they'd have to be objecting. So they just let him get it all out and let him hang himself. Because they come back on cross and finish him. They chew him up and spit him out and pick their teeth with Nelson's vertebrae. Yes, they do. Every time on cross. Anywho, back to the text. I'm excited. You probably can tell. A use of force expert testified today that Derek Chauvin's restraint of George Floyd and his use of a knee on Floyd's neck for as long as he did was deadly force. I've earned a sip on that one. Prosecutors asked Jody Steiger, a LAPD sergeant and use of force expert, whether Chauvin's restraining of Floyd for 9.5 minutes constituted deadly force, which Steiger agreed with. Steiger said the actions counted as deadly force because at the time, Floyd was not resisting and was handcuffed in the prone position. Me speaking. Chauvin's knee was not only on his neck, Chauvin's knee was on his back. Another race soldier's knees was in his back, and the other race soldier pinned his legs down. Deadly force, intentional, first-degree murder. That's what it was. That's not the charge, but it should be. Steiger said the actions counted as deadly force because at the time, Floyd was not resisting and was handcuffed in the prone position. That means face down. He was not attempting to evade. He was not attempting to resist. And that pressure that was being caused by the body weight could cause asphyxia, which could cause death, which did cause death, which was asphyxia. Asphyxia. Steiger said positional asphyxia has been a known risk among police officers for at least 20 years. Deadly force is defined by the Minneapolis Police Department as force that an actor uses with the purpose of causing death, or which the actor should reasonably know creates a substantial risk of causing death or great bodily harm. Deadly force is first-degree murder. He intended to murder George Floyd. Also, Sergeant Steiger testified he did not perceive onlookers to be a threat. I told you, all of what this defense is coming with is immaterial. None of it, all the way from the call about a counterfeit $20 bill, warranted the use of deadly force. Murder in the first degree of Mr. Floyd. Immaterial. Jody Steiger, okay, testified that he did not perceive the crowd of onlookers as threatening. They're standing around holding their cameras and being pushed back by Total, whatever the Asian man's name is. Derek Chauvin's attorney, Eric Nelson, has argued that the bystanders who observed Chauvin and other Minneapolis police officers restrain George Floyd were angry and distracted officers from assessing Floyd's condition. You've been in the force 19 years, 18 complaints, 8 of which mirror what you finally executed on when you executed Mr. Floyd. 866 hours of training in those 19 years. And yet the crowd taping you, angry that you were taking Mr. Floyd's life right in front of them, when they offered to help, when they called you out, your attorney is literally saying that that's a distraction from you assessing what you're doing to Floyd, which is murdering him, for the world to see. You got your rocks off. I saw you dig your knee in even tighter when the bystanders became more heightened and distressed. Steiger disagreed Wednesday. They were merely filming, and most of it was their concern for Mr. Floyd. The prosecution showed an image of the bystanders, some of them with cell phones in hand, to argue that they did not pose a threat. It was brilliant. They were just standing there filming. Not a one of them jumped on the back of the police. They hurled all the insults that they should have. Curse words should not incite you to dig your knee deeper into the neck of a man that the bystanders are trying to save. Brilliant on the prosecution's part to show the image. Steiger said he would define such actions as throwing bottles of rocks, which he said he has experienced on duty, as hostile. Not folks filming with their camera phones. Thank God they were filming with their camera phones. Thank God. Under questioning by prosecutor Steve Schleicher, Steiger acknowledged that loud noise and name-calling can be distracting, but said that Chauvin, a 19-year veteran of the force, had had sufficient training to prepare himself for distractions. Steiger testified that he did not believe the crowd prevented Chauvin from being attentive to Floyd because in videos from the police body cameras, you can hear Floyd expressing his pain and Chauvin responding. First-degree murder. He intended to kill him. An outside expert testified today that Derek Chauvin could have used a taser on George Floyd while he was resisting arrest based on the use of force continuum employed by Minneapolis police. The defense asked Jody Sergeant Steiger, who is the use of force expert for the prosecution, whether Chauvin could have used a taser when he saw Floyd resisting being put in the back of a police car. Steiger agreed that based on the department's use of force continuum, officers are within their rights to use a taser on a subject who is actively resisting. Steiger also agreed the officers were reasonable in their use of force when trying to put Floyd in the back of the car. But Steiger, along with other officers, have previously testified that an acceptable level of force can change throughout an incident. Steiger has said Chauvin used excessive force on Floyd in the more than 9 minutes he was pinned to the ground under Chauvin's knee and, me speaking, handcuffed, and back to the text, not resisting. Minnesota special agent who investigated Floyd's death. Welcome to the live over on Clubhouse. Catch me on YouTube so you can chat and be a part of the conversation. Thank you for tuning in. The prosecution has called a senior special agent with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension who investigated George Floyd's death to the stand. James Ryerson is a special agent with the newly formed Use of Force Investigation Group, which conducts criminal investigations into police use of force. He is the lead investigator in the review of Floyd's death. You can find me on YouTube at the Reparations Perspective. Clubhouse. Hi, Michael and T. You can find me live at the Reparations Perspective on YouTube right now if you want to chat and be a part of the conversation. Otherwise, you're free to watch from Clubhouse. Thank you for joining. I appreciate your presence. Okay, so our next note is prosecutors walked through how long Chauvin's knee was on Floyd's neck. So today, they walked through the body camera and bystander footage with a special agent investigator in the death of George Floyd to show how long Derek Chauvin's knee was on the man's neck and not on his back area, as the defense has highlighted. See, defense is trying to get this off. He's playing a Jedi mind trick on the jury to make them believe they didn't see what they saw. He's trying to say the knee on the shoulder at the crevice of the neck after Chauvin was invited by the paramedics to take the knee off the throat so they can lift him to the gurney. It's really what happened. You didn't see, according to Nelson, defense, surely you didn't see the knee on the neck and the knee going in tighter as the audience, the bystanders, became more enraged that you were taking Mr. Floyd's life right before their eyes. That wasn't what you saw, even though that's what's on the video. So he keeps trying it with this argument to say that it was in the back area. That's a Jedi mind trick, because all he needs is one to hang this thing. He needs one person. He needs reasonable doubt to land in one of them 6 white jurors, or one of them immigrant jurors, or one of the ADOCS, which I think is only one, an ADOCS woman on that jury. All he needs is one to say not guilty. And woe be unto us if this man is not guilty. He should be guilty of all 3 charges and given the maximum sentences combined. But listen, if we can at least get a guilty verdict of any one of the three, we get to live. But if not, woe be unto ADOCS. Get to the range. It will be open season. Prosecutor Matthew Frank took witness James Ryerson, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension special agent in charge of investigating Floyd's death, through a detailed examination of a side-by-side video showing police body camera and bystander footage. Frank paused the video repeatedly to ask Ryerson about the placement of Chauvin's knee. In his testimony, Ryerson confirmed that Chauvin's knee was on Floyd's neck for several minutes. The testimony appeared intended to strike back at defense Eric Nelson, Chauvin's attorney, has repeatedly shown images to experts this week that appear to show the former officer's knee on Floyd's back area at the time the ambulance arrived at the scene, to suggest that it had been there the entire time. I told y'all, the Jedi mind trick. The Jedi mind trick is what's going on. So the prosecution and defense clashed today over Floyd's words on drug use in the video. It was hardly audible, family. So they had differing claims today over whether a difficult to understand video of George Floyd screaming out as he was pinned to the ground by officers showed him denying he had taken drugs or saying he had taken too many drugs. It's inconsequential, immaterial. White folks who are addicted to opioids get rehab. I don't give a damn what the man said. It's immaterial. Now, what Cahill is going to allow the defense to use is a March 2019 arrest of George Floyd, who ingested drugs at that time and was acting sporadic and fearful of his life. He's going to allow that for defense to try and make a case that his erratic behavior, what, constituted executing him? Is that where we're going with this? And yet he will only allow the prosecutor to use 2 of 8 complaints out of 18 complaints in the 19 years of Chauvin's serving on the force. Prosecutors can only present the weakest 2 to the jury. We are the only ones who are put on trial during our own murder trials. ADOCS. The C is for channel, for those of you who are new. Derek Chauvin's defense today played loud body camera footage of Floyd as he was pinned to the ground by officers and asked witnesses if they heard Floyd say, "I ate too many drugs." Immaterial. I don't care what he ate. It didn't constitute his murder in cold blood. The first expert witness of today, back to Sergeant Steiger, said he could not understand what Floyd was saying when the video was played. It was barely audible. He was fighting for his life. So Nelson asked today's second witness, James Ryerson, the special agent with the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and lead investigator on the case, if he previously had heard footage of Floyd appearing to say he had taken too many drugs. Ryerson said he had not. After listening to the video, Ryerson said he agreed with Nelson about what he heard Floyd say. After listening to the video, Ryerson said he agreed with Nelson about what he heard Floyd say. I say it's immaterial. Hi, Chris. If you want to catch me live, the Reparations Perspective on YouTube. On redirect, prosecutor Matthew Frank played a longer version of that moment from a different officer's body camera, which included discussion between the officers about drug use. After viewing that footage, Ryerson said he believed Floyd did not say he'd eaten the drugs. See, that prosecution is fire. I believe Mr. Floyd was saying, I ain't do no drugs, Ryerson said. Woo-wee. Fire. The defense's argument in the case is that Floyd's death was caused by a drug overdose and health complications and not from Chauvin's knee on his neck. He blaming it on the rain, y'all. He doing, I guess, the best he can. That's what they pay him the big bucks to do. The police union is paying him. The police union is paying for Chauvin's defense, the legal defense fund. Still our tax dollars. Forensic scientist with the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, that was takes the stand. Prosecutor called Mackenzie Anderson, a forensic scientist for the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, to the stand. Anderson responds to the scene at Cup Foods in the early morning hours of May 26. A previous BCA agent testified that Anderson searched George Floyd's vehicle and a Minneapolis police squad car after they were taken into evidence. Brianna Giles, a forensic scientist with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, took the witness stand this afternoon. Giles analyzes items for the presence or absence of controlled substances and generates reports on those findings. She tested items related to the investigation into the death of George Floyd, including pills or what appeared to be portions of pills found in the car. George Floyd had been driving in the back of a police squad car. Hi, Morgan. I'm on the Reparations Perspective on YouTube Live if you want to join the conversation there. Thank you for joining the clubhouse. Okay. So today concluded with testimony from Susan Neith, a forensic chemist for NMS Labs. Neith testified that she found methamphetamine and fentanyl in pills she tested that were collected at the scene. She was one of 3 forensic scientists to testify today, about the collection and testing of items found in George Floyd's car and a police squad car. Also testifying today was James Ryerson, the special agent leading the investigation for the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and LAPD Sergeant Jody Steiger, a use of force expert for the prosecution. So court will resume tomorrow, 9:15, I do believe. I don't know what time zone that is, y'all. 9:15 is it Central? 7:15 here. It's 7:15 here when they go. 8:15 in the Mountain, 9:15 in the Central, and 10:15 in the Eastern. Okay? So that concludes those updates. I want to jump over to Biden, not only weaponizing George Floyd's execution to give Asians protections, but now he's giving them money, while totally ignoring 87% of the ADOCS electorate that got him into the White House. Remember? He said y'all had his back. He was going to have y'all's. Have y'all seen anything yet? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm missing something in my research. I'm searching high and low, near and wide to see what Biden has done for ADOCS lately in all the executive orders he's been administering. I haven't seen anything. So let's get into it. Biden Okay, that's the one, not the one. Hold on, y'all. I'm jumping to my article. Just give me a second. This is unfreaking believable. Where is the article? Give me a second, family. Let me, I don't know. It must have kicked out of my queue. Just a second. After Atlanta spa shootings. Here we go. There it is. It's up there. After Atlanta spa shootings, Biden commits to funding to Asian communities. Let's get into it. We are the anchor of the country our ancestors built with their lives, and Biden weaponizes George Floyd's execution by the race soldiers to give protections to the Asians, and now he's giving them money upon their demands. President Joe Biden has committed funding to the Asian American and Pacific Islander community to protect against violence, hate, xenophobia, as well as COVID-19 and inequity. We're dying disproportionately from the COVID. Dying disproportionately from government-sanctioned execution. Dying disproportionately from poverty, which is a comorbidity amongst ADOCS. We are now newly enslaved in the prison industrial complex, many of whom are there for drug-related nonviolent offenses, while the state turns a profit on weed. The preschool to prison pipeline, over 200,000 missing Black teachers, redlined into environmentally racist communities and tenement housing, unemployed, underemployed, underemployed. What's up, Dominic? I'm live as part of the Reparations perspective over at YouTube. I'll be right over to chat with y'all after the segment, okay? Give me about 20 more minutes. It's cool. You can stay up on the stage. Dying disproportionately from unemployment, underemployment. Asians own our communities, along with all the other immigrant groups. No businesses to gainfully employ our own. We've got the most college student loan debt and no affirmative actions with quotas anymore so that we can get employed. Only 18% of us are degreed, while the left and the Justice Democrats continue to push to erase student loan debt, which is another white wealth transfer. Our median national income is $41,000 to white folks, $64,000 to Asians who Biden just gave money to, who Biden just gave protections to. Their median nationwide income is $87,000. The median cost of a home in the nation is $340,000. And President Joe Biden, your president, I didn't vote for this Mickey Ficky, has committed funding to the Asian American and Pacific Islander community to protect against violence, hate, xenophobia, as well as COVID-19 and inequity. This is why God birthed anti-Black racism as a series through me. They want y'all to believe that ADOCS is American after killing and stealing all the wealth generated from our ancestors' heinous chattel slave labor, the worst of its kind in the born free world. Do you hear me? And we've been voting blue no matter damn who since forever. And this is the thanks we get. 2 weeks after the Metro Atlanta shootings, the White House announced an updated plan Tuesday in its response to anti-Asian hate. Now, hi, Dustin. Welcome to the live. If you want to catch me live on YouTube, I am at the Reparationist Perspective. Otherwise, I'll be over here to chat with you guys in about 20 minutes. Tuesday in its response to anti-Asian hate. Now, when I researched what is all this newness to an anti-Asian hate rhetoric that grants or warrants an award before paying reparations to ADOCS, 68% of their assaults is verbal. Less than 1% have been shot by the race soldiers. Less than 1% are in prison, and their median income nationwide is $87,000. They're in our communities doing business to the tune of, we helped to contribute to Asian sales last year to the tune of $387 billion. Yep. Between the hair stores and the nail shops and the liquor stores and the restaurants, we contributed greatly. ADOCS. Back to the text. I'm going to watch and I'm going to wait and see how this is done, says Sue Ann Hong, President and CEO of the Center for Asian Pacific American Women. Question sheet. Listen, we are enduring a 400+ year Holocaust, while the author of the 94 crime bill, Jim Crow segregationist Sloppy Joe Strong Thermos Boy, is giving Asians protections while weaponizing Floyd's execution, and now he's giving the money. Hi, Gwen. Listen, guys, I'll be over shortly. I'm finishing out the Reparationist Perspective on YouTube. I'd love to hear you weigh in. Stand by. Give me about 15 minutes. Okay, so let's get back to the text. Questions she still has include which community groups will get the funding. This is why we unflatten blackness. They've unflattened all the other groups, many of whom get to identify twice as their group and as white. I've shared with you guys many times that the color of white in this country is green, or if you've got the complexion to be deemed white. That's two ways. You can be blue-black, but if you got money, you get to be white. You get to access whiteness. Hello, Kamala Harris. Hello, Barack Obama. We have yet to have an ADOCS president. Ring my phone when that happens. Don't tell me we've had black, we've not had ADOCS. All black ain't ADOCS black. This is why we unflatten blackness. You see, she's already wondering who is going to get this money. The plan includes setting aside $49.5 million to organizations that support survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. It also creates a task force to address xenophobia around COVID-19 and a U.S. Department of Justice initiative to respond to anti-Asian violence. It also allocates $33 million for research into their bias. Now, that falls a little short. They wanted $300 million. But it wasn't a bad day. They got $80.5 million. And folks wonder why I holler. You need to adjust your volume if it's too loud. I can't research this and not be hotter than fish grease. I don't know why everybody isn't screaming and taking to the streets. Where you at, CBC? This is why I'm calling on us to weaponize the vote, the only commodity we've got. I'm not asking y'all to do anything different than what Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, prescribed when after we delivered Teddy Roosevelt as Republicans, Teddy Roosevelt dishonorably discharged 167 Buffalo soldiers who were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man while being quarantined in their barracks after being wrongfully accused of murdering the first. Dr. Charles Morris said, "You shot us when our guns were empty, and for that we're going to return the same. We're going to deliver a blue top of the ticket." This is when we were Republican. "And a red Congress to protect the Black South." I'm asking us to deliver a red top of the ticket and a blue Congress to protect the over 53% of American descendants of chattel slavery who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism until we can replace the lanes in the CBC with full-chested reparationists. And until they cut those checks in the trillions over multi-generations. If it took 400 years to get us there, to get us here as the anchor of the country, it's going to take about 800 to get us out. And I'm asking you to join me in those efforts. Organizations in Atlanta and across the country have called for $300 million of federal money for their community groups to fight anti-Asian hate and inequity. They need money, Stephanie Cho said a day after the Atlanta area shootings. She's executive director of the Atlanta chapter of Asian Americans Advancing Justice. There's now tons of victims. There's also this level of trauma. I thought only 8 people were executed. I told you 68% of their assaults are verbal. Tons of victims, you see how they inflate this situation where we are still suffering under the boot of a 400-plus year Holocaust. There's also this level of trauma. Who's been more traumatized than ADOCS in this country that our ancestors built with their lives? In a letter, nearly 200 community groups, nonprofits, and businesses across the country said money is urgently needed for services such as mental health and translation. We don't need money urgently. ADOC's been traumatized since they dragged us over here in chains. We don't need reparations. We don't need mental health experts. What's up, Malcolm? I'll be over there shortly. I'm just finishing my live over on YouTube, the Reparationist Perspective. 8 people were killed in the spree of shootings in Atlanta area massage businesses, including 6 Asian women. And they get $80.5 million for that. While we still have no executive orders. While we still don't have social nor economic justice nor inclusion. Y'all got to weaponize this vote. Your wealthiest group, they've neutralized us economically. Now they're coming for the vote. In my earlier segment, my midday segment, as the world of ADOCS turn, tune in tomorrow, noon, Pacific Standard Time, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I shared about how they're allowing these migrant children to cross the border, and right here in my home city, Long Beach, they're opening up the convention center to 1,000 of them. They create the problems abroad and then want to use us for the vote to be the solution to these very groups, to make us 4th-class citizens in the country our ancestors built with their lives, and to make us eat the cost of slavery. While ICE deported 2 planefuls of Haitian children and babies back to Port-au-Prince. And we know what Hillary Clinton's foundation did after they went through their natural disasters. Lined the pockets of all their contractors with all that money they raised. How many have we lost in our 400 plus year Holocaust? That is absolutely going to be factored into my demand for reparations. On the low end, I'm at 104 trillion. Let me tell you what it does not include. Because mine is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. So let me tell you what I have yet to get a number on, which will be added. Now, we are owed 104 trillion on the very low end, with a median $50 trillion for slavery alone. Now, that's a median. Some researchers say we're owed 24 trillion, and some researchers say that we're owed 93 trillion, plus 735 billion in recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor medical apartheid, nor the breeding farms, nor Freedmen's Bureau Bank, nor the theft of our intellectual property, nor the decimation of our Black churches over the Black vote, nor compound interest from 2017 when the Black Tax was published, nor the cost of Black lives, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the pandemic, nor the theft of land. There was a symposium of mayors that said we are owed $6.2 quadrillion. That's 151 million per ADOCS. I don't know how they got there, but I'll share about it tomorrow when we come back for the day 9 of the Chauvin trial. Days later, Biden met with the community leaders in Atlanta. Hate and violence often hide in plain sight. Really, said Biden, the day of the meeting. It's often met with silence. Oh, you should know. That's been true throughout our history, but that has to change. For who? Everyone but for ADOCS, right? You have yet to make an executive order of that anti-lynch bill. We don't have that law. You allow this government to call us black identity extremists, I think it is called, black extremist terrorists. You label us for fighting for the rights for social and economic justice and inclusion, but you have yet to make an EO calling the KKK, the skinheads and the neo-Nazis, the domestic terrorists they are. The FBI told you in 2016 that since 2006, when they started their investigations, the police force all throughout the country is overwrought with white supremacists like Chauvin. And you refuse to give an EO to dismantle qualified immunity. You refuse to decimate the private prisons. Why? Because many of you in government are invested in those prisons. And our black bodies is just the slavery those corporations need to produce yet another return on the investment of black bodies, akin to slavery. And 87% of ADOCS ran to the polls and were convinced by the mainstream media that replacing a racist in office of 4 years with racist plural in office a combined 65 years, with records against ADOCS several New York City blocks long, was a sound idea. And now the only one screaming, like I told y'all, is ADOCS. Everybody else is getting a come up, while we become fourth-class citizens and get to eat the cost of slavery. An investigation is ongoing, and law enforcement officials say nothing is off the table, including determining whether the shootings were a hate crime. The shootings, they still, it was absolutely a hate crime. They claim this fool was sexually repressed and having a bad day. Why did he shoot up the white strip joints along the way to the Asian ones? Furthermore, I want to know why, and this is in my earlier segment, if you guys want to check the archives under the, as the world of ADOCS turns, my first show today, talked about the cracker Alan Weaver, business owner in Georgia, LaGrange, Georgia, whose ex-employee blew the whistle. Dylan Hester blew the whistle on this cracker who has a genocidal plan to extinct, to execute, to annihilate all the blacks in Georgia. He in business in Georgia, and yet, hi Kay, welcome. I'm coming over to live. Just to give me a second to close this show out over here at YouTube. And yet the FBI is not involved. The FBI has not gotten involved, and LaGrange is sitting up here allowing this man to continue to do business. After hearing the leaked audio by whistleblower Dylan Hester, who they're now trying to make the problem. The feds are not involved. And he got a whole genocidal plan to erase black folks in Georgia. Okay, I'm going to finish this out because I got some lovely folks. I got Dominic and Kay and Michael, Morgan, Dustin, Malcolm over in the clubhouse under anti-black racism updates on the Chauvin trial, day 8. I want to go over there and give them some love. Family, if y'all can give me a couple seconds to give some love to my faithfuls over here and go through their comments. I'll only read the most important ones and welcome them because they roll with a sister, tough and hard. Thank you for those of you who have joined the live and you have yet to chat your name. I welcome you one and all. I see you, Kunta. I see you, Babe Rax. I see you, Decarius McClern. Decarius says 19 years, 18 complaint. That's about a complaint a year on the average. Shaking my head. Yes, sir. And 8 of those complaints mirror what he finally delivered on with George Floyd. 8. And Cahill was only allowing him to use 2, the weakest 2 of those 8 complaints. He's been practicing the blood choke on the people in our community over the course of his 19 years in the force. And Nelson has gotten him off. I got to find out which ones this defense attorney has gotten him off on prior to this one. But you can see clearly this race soldier was practicing. It's almost as if his boys had a signal because it wasn't even Chauvin's call. His boys, it's like they had a little KKK club. And the minute they were able to nab George Floyd, they call in Chauvin to finish the blood choke. One held his legs down, the other one was in his back, while Chauvin, I just learned today during the trial, was on the back and on the neck. Brian says, I'm hoping the state will drive the point home tomorrow that Floyd's drug use could not have induced his death, as the defense is ever trying to argue. Yes, Brian, we all know he was living just fine, very jovial acting, drug use and COVID and underlying health issues alike. He was alive before that knee to his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. That is it, and that is all. The rest is immaterial. Also, Brian says, the mob theory is very weak, especially since through much of this transaction, the Asian officer placed himself between the crowd and Chauvin Floyd. Brilliant observation, Brian. You're absolutely right. He threatened to mace them, as did Chauvin. Satra Del Reed 360, thank you for joining the live, my love. I see you, fam. Brian says, white supremacy loves to pour grace and mercy over their BS while beating ADOCS over the head with the law of Moses. It's just unconscionable, the double standard. It makes my stomach turn. Jay Bird, I see you, fam. MT Aries 007. Yes, I'm going off. You best to know it. I'm hotter than fish grease. All the time I'm turned up over ADOCS. Jay Bird, key word here is federation, Chinese Federation. They are now on the same page with natives of this country. Ain't it deep? Ain't it deep? That's the AAPI. Truth is all about the money. All about the Benjamins, baby. Brian says what really needs to end is Asian hate on black folks. You better know it. You can see them executing us like our white oppressors. You can see them choking us out in their beauty supply stores and the whole 9 yards. And what we need to do is boycott their businesses. None of this changes until we change. Truth, I just brought that up to my cousin this week. So true. Biden, thumbs down. Hi, Terry Lewis, I see you, fam. Jay Bird. Okay, Brian says, notice how the Georgia shooter was having a bad day as a mass shooter killer, but George Floyd somehow deserved to die because of drug use, because of a fake 20. Let that sink in. While white folks get rehab for opioid addictions, while black folks were jailed when the government flew the guns and the crack into our communities, the guns and the drugs, we went to jail, whether we were addicted or whether we were peddling. Peace and love to your family. Yes, we must boycott. Okay, family, if you want to continue the discussion, I've got some brilliant, beautiful black minds over in the clubhouse that I want to chat with and get it in with. They've been waiting patiently. I want to thank you so much for joining the live. I hope to see you tomorrow for your midday report as the world of ADOCS turns. 12 noon Pacific, 1 Mountain, 2 Central, 3 Eastern, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I hope to see you there for more of the puckery. I'm gonna be leaning into anti-black racism till times get better for ADOCS. And with that said, let me give you a covering with my prayer of protection that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOCS and its allies are, God truly is, because family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Know that I love you black. I love you strong. Peace, family. Until tomorrow, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. Peace.